listening to the Marketing and Yoga Pants podcast, a podcast in sisterhood for female entrepreneurs that serves up savvy, actionable marketing advice and interviews with creative business owners who are in the trenches, building their businesses as we speak. The Marketing and Yoga Pants community is for you, the girl on her couch, in her yoga pants, top knot tight, hunched over her MacBook, trying her hardest to get the word out about her business. So in the name of supporting each other while supporting ourselves, bringing community, sound marketing advice, coffee, chocolate, and wine together for you, yoga pants wearing business owner, in a world where followers mean nothing, but paying customers mean the world, join us on this week's podcast episode and in our private Facebook group where you'll meet your soul sisters and build your business in yoga pants. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing and Yoga Pants podcast. I'm Brit and I'm here today with Stacy Fischer, founder, business and life coach at the W Collective. Thank you so much for joining me today, Stace.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Okay, so Stacy and I met each other back in March when we were put in a mastermind group together. If you've been listening for the past few weeks, you've heard from a number of the women that I'm in a mastermind with, and Stacy is also in that mastermind. We've been curated by Sarah Christensen of Kick-Ass Masterminds, and unlike many of the other interviews I've done with my mastermind sisters, this one is taking place after we've actually met each other in person. All the other ones that I talked to, it all happened before our live retreat. So it was like, I can't wait to meet you. And we haven't met each other, but we feel like we know each other and all that. But Stacy and I have actually met each other in real life. And it was amazing. And I'm just really pumped to get to chat with her today and share her with you. I'm just really excited about that. Get some insight into her business, her industry, her marketing strategy, and really what makes it all tick. So, Stacy, are you ready to jump in?
I am.
All right, let's do this. So, first of all, tell all the listeners, how do you earn your living?
I earn my living. I am a business and life coach, and I started out working with couples in business. That's been the story of my life. My husband and I have owned a company together since 2001. We were actually business partners before we were ever even married. All of the knowledge and strife kind of over those 17 years became a really good place for me to jump off to start to want to coach other women who were in business with their significant other. And I started that about 2 years ago. And then I kept getting the call from like, well, it's not my husband, but it's my sister, or I want to start a company with my best friend, or, we met out of our MBA program and this is what we really want to do, but we want to maintain our friendship and not ruin that as we start a business together. Could you help us as well? So it's kind of branched out now to working with kind of all co-founders. So whether that co-founder is someone that you share DNA with or share a bed with or share like your MBA program with, then that is who I like to work with.
That's what you do. Because you've been living that life for quite a while, right?
Yes.
All of that meshing in together. That's not part of my story, being in a partnership within business, but it always fascinates me to watch and hear from and learn from people who are in business with someone that they're also doing life with. Very interesting to me. So let's go back, and I'd love to understand how you got here. Tell me the story of how you really came to do this with your life. I know you kind of just gave us a little overview. Take us way back and tell us how we've gotten here.
Sure. I'm going to take you all the way back to 2001.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I was then working for a nonprofit within a biology department in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we live. And my husband was ready to start his own company. It's brilliant creative with very little business background or business sense. It's just not the way his brain works. Mm-hmm. So we had recently started dating. I really liked him, of course. And I thought, you know what, either his business isn't going to work or this relationship isn't going to work. And since I did like him, and being young and not like young and dumb is kind of what I call it, or young and naive, I was like, yeah, sure, I can help you. Like, I can do the business side of this business. It's a couple of tax forms to the city and paying some bills here and there. And you go and create, and I have enough time with the work that I'm doing, that I'll do this. So in all honesty, that's the way it started. It was, you go and make and do this business, and I'll like kind of do behind the scenes and order materials and pay the bills for you and make sure that the tax form gets filed when the tax form needs to get filed. So it just kind of that just kind of morphed out of that. And it, it's grown for 17 years. And now we have about 10 employees. We've had as many as almost 20 with 2 locations. And now we're back to 1 location. And we've been married. We have 2 kids. We've done like the growth cycles of the business, and then the kind of like the ebb and flow of what it grows that business. And so then it was a couple of years ago, after having numerous conversations with other people, and my husband's name's Aaron. How do you and Aaron run your business together, parent together, and what they would say is like seem to have this really connected, loving marriage? And then I just started to see this little bit of extra market for this, people that either wanted to do that or were already doing it and kind of struggling. So out of that, it became the W Collective. So I could really focus on the women part of it, right? So the W Collective is for women and wellness and work and wisdom. And it's just kind of all that woven part together that you want to be as a woman.
That's really interesting. So we didn't really touch on this. What type of business are you running with your husband?
Yeah, so that one came out of an industrial design company. So it's manufacturing and prototypes for industrial design products.
Super cool. Okay. And so for the past, 17 years, are you still in that business? Are you transitioning out of it so you can function and focus more on the W Collective? Like, what does that look like right now?
Yeah, that's been part of the interesting dance. So surprisingly, when I wanted to start my coaching practice and go out and do some of this, it was interesting. I always say that as soon as you're ready to start something is when all the is going to come up. Mm-hmm. And I was no exception to that rule. So it started to come up of, can you leave that business? Will you still be a woman in business with her significant other if you're not actually in that business? Yes, of course, right? I have 17 years experience with it. It's not like that knowledge was just going to leave my brain the minute that I said I'm no longer part of this company. But I have taken huge steps back, and we've brought in some of the work that I did in that company has been outsourced to, someone else, or we've hired someone, or Aaron's taking some of it back, or some of our employees have taken it back. So I have it really whittled down to probably only about 4 hours a week right now. And eventually I would love to be probably fully out of that, other than just support for Aaron.
That's interesting. Okay. So I had to go there just so we could fully I've heard that story and all of it, and then some, me, but as the listeners, like, how does this all, transition and function together? So really interesting. Yeah. Okay. So now it's been, you said 2 years since you started the W Collective. How did you get your first client? How did that get off the ground? Once you decided, hey, I think I see a need here. I think I'm going to serve that need. Then what did you do?
It was important to me to go through a proper coaching certification program. So I'm a certified coach through the Life Coach School. That's Brooke Castillo's life coaching program. Mm-hmm. And I went through that. And as part of that, on the back end of it, you get 6 months of business support and coaching client. Like, you have to coach a certain amount of free clients. So one of my first paying clients was actually a client that came out of that program. Was one that had been through kind of, as those clunky first days as a coach. And she ended up signing on with me after that. And we worked together for probably 6 weeks after I had become certified and graduated, if you will. We worked together for probably another 6 weeks after that. She was my first one, and then went on to refer me to one of her friends. So then that kind of became I guess at that point would have been my second client. And then I signed up my naturopathic doctor. Her and her husband worked together. So in some of the work that they were doing and some of the everyday stressors that they were bumping up against, and they also had a new baby, that she became my next client. So then it's just kind of gone from either a referral or a word of mouth, kind of like a really slow kind of organic growth of like, I worked with her, maybe get on a call, work like that.
Yeah. As I think back on other interviews that I've done we've been doing this for almost a year and a half now. To get started as a coach, I think every coach I've talked to has had a similar story. And so if you're sitting there, if you're a listener right now and you're a coach and you're wondering, you want to be a coach and you're wondering, how though? Like, how do I make that work? And maybe you have a service-based business already, but you want to move into coaching. There is definitely a trend here. It is absolutely a trend. Get some experience, get through your first clunky few sessions, right? Do them for free. Find people that are willing to spend half an hour with you, an hour with you. Get through that little bit of a mess there and see. You start to find your style a little bit. You start to experiment, and you start to really see how your conversations and your coaching can impact someone. And one of those people that you work with is probably, this has been the trend, is probably going to continue with you. And that's going to be your first client. And then from her or him, there's going to be a referral happening later down the line. Obviously, if you're doing your job well, and I know, Stace, you did. So I just have to pull that out there, because after talking to so many people and a handful of them being coaches, that's a very clear trend. Awesome. So now, you're 2 years in. Like we said, you are a part of Kick-Ass Masterminds. You've come into community with our small group. And I know you've been making interesting shifts and asking big questions this year about how to not only grow this business, but also allow it to serve you while you are being the coach, and serving you and the life you want to build. And so can you take me into where your business is at right now, what's working for you to grow it, and just I would love to get into that big brain of yours and see how you envision this business, not only supporting others, but also supporting you.
Sure. I love the one-to-one. I know there's a lot of coaches that kind of quickly want to move through their one-on-one to get to a group to serve more people and all that. My magic and where I love that connection really is in my one-to-one. It's in my private clients that I have. And I typically work with women. Either we kind of do a quarterly session like a quarterly program together, or if it's someone that they're just really wanting to launch their business and they know that they're going to need a lot of support, I'll bring them in and we'll do a whole year. So then we kind of chunk the quarters up and really get in there and tackle. And it's interesting. So I do business and life, and it's funny because so many people come in and they want to do that. This is my business. This is my dream. This is my movement. This is what I want to get going. And then as we start, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier too, right? As soon as you're ready to take that step is kind of when life gives you like, what about all of this? Maybe we should deal with some of this underlying stuff first. And so then the life part comes up with it, right? So that's why I like a little bit longer, either a quarter or a year, so we can really get in there and clean up some of those underlying thoughts and beliefs that you may have in your life that are going to for sure show up in your business, and business for sure is going to show up in your life. That's just the little wicked web that gets woven when you decide to become an entrepreneur. That's why I like to do the life and the business all wrapped up together. So one-on-one is what I really love from coming out of the mastermind that we've talked about, maybe a small group kind of. If I do want to, I have two kind of common problems that come up for a lot of the women that I work for. One is they never feel like they have enough time, right? They have all these things to do and never have enough time. And the second one is, especially if it is a woman in business that's either, like in mine, in the case of me right now, I have kind of two businesses that I'm still in. And sometimes I get that too. Sometimes I get the dual entrepreneurs where they have like, she has a business and he has a business, and there's a little bit of crossover from both. And then if you throw in any employees or any children, for sure, you're probably putting yourself on the back burner. You're kind of serving everyone else first and not taking care of yourself. So out of those two things, further down the road, probably Q4, I'm hoping to get it out there in Q4, is systems and self. So it would be like a 6-week program where we would look at what systems do you need to be put into your business, which, as we all know, those of us that have added some systems to our business, that is one way to reclaim some time. And 2, where are you neglecting yourself? Where are you not showing up for yourself? And I love that because the way my brain works and also kind of the way I tend to coach is like, we're going to do some strategy and we're going to do some, mindfulness or some conscious. So strategic and conscious. And I loved that balance between the systems and self too, right? One's kind of really applicable and doable. And yes, I now have this system in place and it's running. And then the other one is a little bit more of like, and what do I need for myself? What do I need for my own well-being?
Mm-hmm. I love that duality that you bring in to, I just have to mirror this back to you right now. I wouldn't usually do this to just any podcast interviewee, but hey, we know each other.
Let's do it.
I so admire that yin and yang about you. It comes into, I think, every conversation I've ever had with you where it's yes and, right? And you're a really great model for that. And now that we've spent time together, I think it's so brilliant that you work that into your coaching of it's the strategy and it's the woo, it's the receiving and the giving, and it's yes and all over the place. And if that doesn't align with the fact that you work with people who are in partnership, I don't know what does, right? It's just so aligned and it so fits who you are. And I have to imagine that that's probably why you and Aaron have not only built a really sustainable business, but a really great marriage too. It's so cool how I can see all those pieces coming together. Now that you've really learned that, one-on-one seems to be your sweet spot, and you're getting to know your client better, and you're realizing that it might not always be the romantic partner and the business partner, but it might just be, we're partners in business and we're people together in life, doing life together somehow. Now that you've flushed all that out, how does this business at this stage in your life fill you up and allow for the life that you want to build around you? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I love it. I love when it's the people coming in, right? And they have this movement inside of them. Like they have this business that has just been building inside of them and they can't wait to get it out. Like I love that enthusiasm, especially the co-founders that I work with. It's kind of like, it's more along the lines of like conscious companies, right? So someone that really has that movement, like they have that, I want to do good. I have a product that I want to get out there. I have a service that I want to get out there into the world that I know can make some change, whatever that looks like, big or small, like change in your own household, change in your community, change worldwide. It doesn't matter to me what level of change they want to make. And thank you for saying that about the duality. I think that really has been the secret to it all, right? That is kind of that magic, especially when it's someone that you love, whether that be your significant other, your sister, or, a really close friend that you want to start a business with, but this is a person that you love and adore, and you do not want the conflict of the company that you're starting together to ruin your relationship. And I always say that it only takes one person. Right? So it only takes one person in a relationship to manage their own mind and to manage their own emotions around that to make the whole relationship work. And that is part of the coaching and part of the work that we do too, right? And this comes up for Aaron and I sometimes. He's pretty tidy and my study in my office is not, right? It's like we just work in two different things. And this used to really kind of cause some strife between us. I'm like, listen, this is the way I work. This is the way I work. But I also know that there are parts of it that really can bother you. So I will work on this, and you're just going to have to accept that this is the way I work. And similar things, right? You have to like kind of create that. You're not going to be able to ever control or change your business partner. So then that work has to come to you, right? Like that's where the mind work and the like managing your own thoughts and emotions come in. So you can be who you want to be in life, love, and business. Is kind of all three areas that we work in. So that does for sure come up with my one-on-ones. Was the second part of your question, how does that fill me up?
Yeah, I'm trying to tap into, I know that, you went on a pretty lengthy trip this summer, and I know that while you were getting filled up in life, your business was facilitating that too. And I think that's part of your bigger vision. And I'd love to tap into a little bit of that, if not all of it, just so the listeners can see how these businesses that we're building they can not only serve other people, but at the end of the day, they can serve us. That might seem like, well, duh, like I'm choosing to create this. I love it. But sometimes I think we lose ourselves way faster than we even realize when we're building this thing and we want to serve these specific people. And then especially as women, I think we lose sight of ourselves in how the business is benefiting us, not just our bank accounts. Yes, that's a piece of it, but like it's actually filling us up as humans. And I see you intentionally and consciously creating this business so it also creates the life that you want to live for you and your family. And so I just would love that example. Could you just kind of lay that
Yeah,
out for
for
us
sure.
and how that functions?
Yeah, and that was a long time coming. So when
Mm-hmm.
Aaron and I started in 2001, the financial stability was not there to do kind of some of the travel and like taking our summers off. So that has been like, as the business has grown, as we've had the kids, and kind of like, how do we really want to be living it, right? We've built both of these businesses now. They're both serving us. What else is missing? So adventure is huge for us, adventure for both of us. Travel is right in there. And this is kind of the freedom that entrepreneurship affords, right? So we've built these companies and we live in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is blazing hot in the summer if no one has ever been here. So it's ideal to take off in the summer and go to cooler temperatures. And for the last 2 summers, we have packed both businesses, both kids, and both dogs into an Airstream and hit the road for roughly about a month. So we still work from the road, but this summer we worked even less than we worked last summer. So I just kind of see it also morphing of, we know we're traveling, we know where there's going to be some decent Wi-Fi, and this is the couple of hours a day that we have to work, and then the rest of it's left for adventure, or if there's those days that we're on the road. So it really is creating like, what do you want to create?
Mm-hmm.
What do you really want out of it? If it's the 60-hour work week, that's okay. If it's a 20-hour work week, that's okay as well. If it's, I work 9 months a year and I take 3 months off, or I work 11 months a year and take a month, like, get that out there in the beginning of how you really want to create it and how it serves you, especially if it's a small family. So our girls are 12 and 8. We know that we probably only have a couple of summers left with our oldest before she has no desire to go on summer holiday with us. So it is about taking that time now, taking our work with us, but also having some really good boundaries around when we do work and what that work looks like from the road. And I know this came up from our mastermind too, right? So there were times that I was unplugged, and there was part of me that really, I had that, even that little bit of internal struggle still of like wanting to be there for you guys and seeing it. And also knowing that there were times that we were completely off grid and I couldn't show up. And having to be okay with that too, having to be okay with like, the rest of them are fine and I'm doing this for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always find that both of us come back completely full of new ideas and new creativity and just more connected altogether. Like, we're more connected as a family, because that's what happens when you throw all of you in about 200 square feet. You're kind of forced to feel a little more connected to each other. But also taking that time to be in nature, right? Because so we normally do the Western states. So this summer we did Montana and Wyoming and all of like northern Utah, and came back through Colorado and even northern Arizona. We spent some time up in there. So it's being in nature, being together, knowing that there's only that kind of set time that you can work. I'm way more productive from the road, I feel, than I am even at home, because then I can, there's little things that can creep in here and there, whereas from the road, it's like, okay, I'm working for these 2 hours and then it's adventure time.
Yeah, that's so cool. And what I just, in the very beginning, as you started that, you mentioned that adventure is really important for you and Aaron. And that's the kind of thing I see as part of your superpower, part of your magic of helping your clients identify those values, identify those things that are important to them, so then they can not only communicate about it, but also make those bigger decisions of, okay, if this is what's important to us individually and as partners, then all of the other decisions, I feel like, become a little bit easier. right? All the other business and life
Sure, yeah.
decisions become a little bit easier.
It does, because it kind of gives you a framework, right? We can all get stuck in that, ooh, let's grow, or let's take this client on, or maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do that. And it gives you that framework to kind of look back and be like, yeah, but is that in line with who we are? Is that in line with our values? And is that what we want to be doing? Which, granted, this was not happening for us in 2001 through probably 2004, when we were just really trying to build this and get it off the ground.
Right.
I was able to put that more in place as I started to build the W Collective, and as our other company has evolved over the years, we've been able to put some of this in, and then even, kind of put this as kind of company culture, right? Like, we want our employees to also be taking time off and getting out there and exploring and having adventure, because they are a super creative team. All of the guys that work for us are artisans in their own way, like creative. So I know the importance of having that time off and away to renew their brains and get that next like wave of inspiration going.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when you're starting a business and you want it to sustain you, support you financially, sometimes we will take a client that maybe isn't really in alignment, or we'll take on a project that probably is out of, like, not congruent with our values. And that's going to happen, and that's okay. Just be like, that did not work out the way I wanted to, and now I know why, right? It was out of alignment with how I really want to be working. Then you'll know that didn't feel right. It was not aligned with my values, or not like our company culture, whatever you want, however you want to use that as a framework against it. And then it does help drive it. Do we want to take on this project, or we said that we were going to go away for this? And then you can shift some dates around. Maybe you can take some, however it works for you. But if you're going to venture out on this entrepreneurial journey, it has to fulfill you financially and internally, whether that's spiritually, I guess, or what, like, you as a person also has to be fulfilled and fed by this business.
Mm-hmm. That's a good reminder that this looks different for different people and for different people in different stages, right?
For sure.
Yeah, that's a really helpful reminder. So tell me about what you're working on now and what you're looking forward to in the future. We're heading into the fall now, and that always brings about interesting shifts and changes and thoughts and brainstorming and all of that. And so where's your focus out now, and where do you see yourself taking this company that you've created in the next few months?
Yeah, so I am still working one-on-one. I have some spots still available for Q4 for one-to-one, and then, of course, rolling into 2019. Then my plan is, like I said earlier, in Q4 is to maybe beta test or get out this Systems and Self, this 6 weeks program that kind of deals with the strategic and the conscious part of you as a female business owner, founder or co-founder. I'd like to get that out and test that a little bit.
Yes.
And it's really, for the rest of the year, that's kind of it, right? Continue to fill up my one-to-one clients and beta test this 6-week coaching program on Systems and Self, and then see where that takes it in 2019.
Again, that's that duality piece, systems and self, right? It's like they go together, and just putting them together from the very beginning as you walk into that sort of program that I know you're creating, it makes it that much more powerful. And honestly, from my standpoint, it makes it something that I actually want to be a part of.
Yeah. Happy to have you be in my beta.
It doesn't always feel exciting to jump into. Like, to me, those things, sometimes I have to kind of work myself up to wanting to do those types of things. But when you, from the very beginning, kind of marry it along with, like, this is how you will be able to sustain yourself, and just understanding how those come together from the very beginning. It's so helpful. It's empowering. And I think it's pretty freaking brilliant, because you tend to do that.
Thanks,
Brit. I love it. That's awesome. Before we get to our last question, I would love to know, from your standpoint, if there's a listener listening right now who is in business with a life partner, a spouse, a mom, a sister, whatever, what would you say to her? What would be the number one thing if she's just trying to figure out how to make this partnership better and to have it work better, what should she consider? Like, what can she start thinking about and working on within herself to make that partnership better?
Yeah. So the biggest one is these manuals that we have for one another, right? These handbooks, instruction manuals, set of rules that we kind of create for all people in our life. That is basically what they can do to make us feel better, or what they can do to make us feel more, insert any emotion that you want to feel different about. And that is not that other person's role. So I said earlier that you can't control or change your partner, which is a very hard lesson for a lot of people to learn, especially when you get into a business together. I always used to think, I'll give you an example real quick. I used to think that Aaron could get more done if he wouldn't check his email so much, right? I had this whole manual about he should only check his email twice a day because he would be programming a part or working on something, and he would hear, it was like Pavlov, he would hear that little ding of his email and he would stop to do what he was doing to check his email, which that was a total manual for him. If that's the way it was working for him and he was getting everything done, it was none of my business how he was managing, how often he checked his email. So that's just one little example, but all of them come up. Like earlier when I was talking about my messy desks, so it's the manuals, like just start to realize or just start to notice where you have a manual for them. And I actually have a really good handout, like a really good download workbook for that. If you want to offer that out to anyone, I would be happy to share that with you, and you could do that. The other one, and this comes down to the root of humans in general, right? This doesn't matter if you're in business or not. This is just how we interact with other humans, and it's our communication. It's how well are you listening to your partner, whatever business partner that looks like, and how are you speaking back to them in return? Mm-hmm. Right. So how are you listening and how are you speaking to them? Mm-hmm. Are you speaking at them? Or are you speaking to them? And are you truly listening and hearing what they are saying to you? So a ton of conflict within business relationships come down to the communication. That's probably one of the underlying problems on that is the communication. And then the other one is the manuals, those little rule books that are not serving either one of you, that you're both holding for each other. And I don't mean that like only one partner has them. All of us have them. We have them for our family members. We have them for our neighbors. We have them for our neighbors' dogs sometimes, or...
Yeah. It sounds like the very first step is becoming aware of yourself within the relationship. And isn't it funny how when you're in a relationship with someone or a partnership with someone, it's very easy to identify what they're doing. And meanwhile, it's a lot harder to turn the mirror around and look at how we're showing up in that partnership. And it sounds like that's step one, become self-aware within your space. That's really, really helpful. That feels really actionable, and we'll definitely grab the link to that workbook that you have and offer that in the show notes, because I can already think of a few people that are like, yes, I need that right now. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so one last question.
I was just going to say that awareness of self is it. And then on that is being willing to like listen to your partner when they see something that you're doing. You have to be able to hear that and know that they're, one, deliver that information with love, and two, receive that information with love. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we might have to do a separate episode on just that. Oh my
gosh, we could just, and I'm thinking of a few people that it would be super cool to get us all on one call and just talk through that. We might have to do that. But yes, this is so good. And I think it's just enough of a taste for the people who need to hear this to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to pay attention to this and start. So that's so good. That's so perfect. We're going to wrap this one up. And one last question. I cannot wait to hear this. I want you to look back and tell us, what advice would you give to yourself when you were first starting your business? And I want you to go all the way back to 2001, when you're just kind of starting this with your husband. To that girl on her couch, hunched over her MacBook, trying to figure this out, what would you say to her?
Yeah, that one's a little harder to go back to 2001 because, in all honesty, I was so naive to all of it. I was 25 years old. And at that point, people weren't starting businesses the way they are now. Mm-hmm. right?
That's a
that
good
was
point.
2001. They weren't creating the kind of businesses that people are creating businesses now. So that was truly out of just being naive and knowing like, yeah, we can do this. It was having a little bit of that, just truly, let's go. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Worst that can happen is that you can go find a different job and I'll keep working where I'm working. Like, that was the only consequence we had at that point. When I started the W Collective, it's a little bit easier for me to answer it from that point.
Yeah, let's
do that. And on that one, I would say, actually, this applies to both of them. Slow down. You don't have to go from I have zero business to I'm pulling in multiple six figures in 6 months or a year. Like, whatever your time frame is, allow your own time frame, right? Mm-hmm. Slow down. It's okay to be exactly where you are on this journey. Manage your mind. This I didn't have in 2001 either, and I wish I would have. This comes out of my own coaching and the coaching program, right? Like, I coach myself every day. There is something that comes up every day in either life, love, or business that I am coaching myself on. Mm-hmm. So manage your mind and learn to self-coach yourself. Like, really learn to look at your thoughts. What are they, like, what feelings are they driving? What actions are you taking from that? Like, really start to self-coach yourself around that. And then if there was one more, this is for sure that newer launched to, because in 2001, I don't think anyone had online courses, is the answer is not in that course. I wanted to buffer, like, my first 9 months of business, I did very little work because I wanted to consume. I needed to take all the courses, learn from all the experts. Like, if there's a course out there, chances are I have purchased it and taken either all of it or like 30% of it. So the answer probably isn't in the course. The answer is in the action you take.
That's a good one. All of them are so good. Thank you for that. Okay, so before we go, could you please tell the listeners where they can find you online?
Yeah, so social on Instagram at The W Collective. My website is thewcollective.com. Instagram and my website are probably the two best.
Perfect. Keep it simple. Awesome. Okay, so you heard her, girls. Go check her out, send her some love, and then hop into our private Facebook group to hear even more from Stacy over the next few days. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Keep the conversation going by visiting marketinginyogapants.com/Facebook, where you'll get to join that private Facebook group I've been talking so much about. There, you'll get to chat with our podcast guests. Yeah, they're in there too. And all of the other brilliant creative business owners. We're connecting, we're meeting our soul sisters, and we're building our businesses, all while in yoga pants. So come hang out with us. Again, visit marketinginyogapants.com/Facebook to get in. And one more thing. If you dig this podcast, would you be awesome and share it with someone? This entire Marketing in Yoga Pants movement is nothing without its community. So please share. And if you're really feeling the love right now, jump into iTunes. You're probably already there if you're listening to this right now. And leave us a rating and review. The more of those we rack up, the more the podcast will be found by ladies like you, and the stronger this community becomes. This episode was edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, so go find them at podcastengineers.com. This episode was also brought to you by my online marketing agency, Jam Marketing Group, and you can find us at jammarketinggroup.co. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Love ya. Bye.